Namaste and welcome to Detours with me, Anuradha Goyal, where I talk to some very interesting personalities about journeys of all kinds. Today I have with me Srimati Ponni Selvanathan ji. She is a researcher in Shilpa Shastra and she belongs to a very prestigious family of Shilpa Shastris who have worked on almost all major South Indian temples, including the big temple, Brihadeshwara temple. I had the good fortune of meeting Ponni ji and her husband Selvanathan ji at a temple restoration project that they were doing in Sri Lanka. And that's when I heard so much about Shilpa Shastra from them that I think I consider myself their student. I also mentioned them in my book, Lotus in the Stone, whatever they told me about temple restoration. So today we are going to ask Ponni ji about what do Shilp Shastras tell us about maintenance, restoration, and preservation of our existing temples? Ponni ji, welcome to Detours.
Yes, Namaskaram, Vanakkam, Amma, and we thank you for a wonderful session by Detour. And it's an honor that Anuradha Goyalji is our student. It's a really big honor. So it's very nice to open this subject of maintenance and renovation. And this we call as Jeevnodhara in technical parlance.
Yes.
And I would like to start with Jeevnodhara, giving the background, because Jeevnodhara is a single word which you can't easily understand and you cannot find in any Google or Wikipedia, other engine, search engine.
Yes.
So Jeevnodhara belongs to Vastu Shilpa Shastra. So we all think that Vastu Shilpa Shastra is building architecture. No, it's not. It is Vastu Shilpa Shastra covers both the branches of building architecture and temple architecture. So building architecture we call Manushyalayya Vastu and temple architecture and sculpture we call Devalaya Vastu. So Jeevnodhara is part and parcel of Devalaya Vastu. Like you see, this is integrated science and technology. Vastu Shilpa Shastra is the integrated science and technology, enabling we humans to experience harmony and physical welfare and bliss. So now coming to Jeevnodhara, see in our Bharat, we have more than lakhs of temples and sculptures from the ancient period. So we people throng these temples to obtain physical welfare and again spiritual harmony. But we never think of the temple structure. We just admire the beauty, but we do not realize how this is formed and how this is maintained. And here Jeevnodhara is going to help us to understand these. So
this is very important. This is very important, Ponni ji, because most of us who are ignorant of Shilpa Shastras, we think that it is only about building temples. But what we forget is that once you build it, it's equally important to maintain and preserve them.
Yes, that's true. We have to, it is built in such a way that
the science and the technology.
Can you start again from this sentence? Yeah.
Okay. This is actually these temples are built based on a certain grammar laid in Shastra. So these grammar starts from the mind. The grammar consists of mathematical order and other scientific specifics. So this mathematical order is the base, and that mathematical order starts from the minutest atomic particle. So our Shilpi Rishis, Maharishis, they visioned how the particle looks like, and they calculated the perimeter of that particle, which looks like 2D, two dimension. So now all these things are dealt in Vastu Shilpa treatises. So like Vastu Shilpa treatises, we have got one of the leading text that is used, followed by the Shilpis of India, that is called Manasara Shastra. And that Manasara Shastra explains 32 types of 32 text, original text, which deals with both building architecture and temple architecture, Anuradhama. Building architecture consists of building palaces, huge skyscraping shikhars. These are all explained in these Shilpa text. So that is why our Guru, Dr. Ganapati Sthapati, Padma Bhushan Dr. Ganapati Sthapati, he says that all the traditional oriented Sthapatis, they had inherited the science and technology from their illustrious ancestors, and some of them gained this theoretical knowledge in today's period. They gain this knowledge and the technical skills through Guru Sishya learning. So like my husband, it was a Guru Sishya teaching. It still exists, like we say Veda Padashala, like that. So these scriptures, these traditional manuals, texts, they unravel the science and technology behind the building of huge temples, skyscraping shikhars. So they divided into 3 types. So entire temple building and the making of sculptures lie in 3 segments. That is, we call it Alaya Pradishtapanam, temple construction, Bimba Pradishtapanam, fashioning images, Jeernodharam, repairing, renovating, restoring temples and sculptures. So today we are dealing with Jeernodharam. Yeah, Jeernodhara or Jeernodharam. Okay.
Jeern means the old and Uddhar means re-energizing it.
Yeah, I'm going to explain
renewing
that.
it.
Yes,
right?
Yeah, that's right. So like our visionaries, our Maharishis from the past, they have given us the construction modus operandi. At the same time, they have also left measures how to repair and renovate and how to restore the abandoned, dilapidated, deformed and mutilated temples and images. So this is called in 3 ways. That is Prasada Jeernodharam, Pratima Jeernodharam and Linga Jeernodharam. See, Jeernodharam is in 3 categories. Prasadam means building. That is the sacred built space of Lord.
The actual building.
Yeah, the actual temple building. And the Pratima is the Vigrahas and Linga is Shivalinga. Right. These 3 dealt separately. So this section of Jeernodhara, you can see in all the Agama Vastu Shilpa text under the chapter Prayachita Vidhi or Jeernodhara Vidhi or Anukarma Vidhi. So why I'm including Agama when we are talking about building temples and making statues? Because Agamas, they indicate the oral form, that is through chanting mantras, the visible sacred built form and the statue together said to bring the vibrancy, very alive, and it lasts for long. So the scholars admit both the roles of acharyas, that is Shilpi, Shilpacharya, and Gurukul, temple priest, Svacharya or Bhattacharya. They are there to adore and sustain the divine vibrancy. The one is the first person is by building the temple within the dimensions prescribed in the Shastras, and the second person, the latter, is through his chanting mantras and rituals. So now let's see what is Jeernodharam, because recently we hear many temples are being renovated or restored, even our Ram Janmabhoomi, Ram Lalla's temple. So, and the statues are being restored, and this is seen widespread across our Bharat. So what is Jeernodharam and why Jeernodharam and how to carry out Jeernodharam? Most of us are not aware about it. So, Jeernodharam is a Sanskrit word, like Jeerno plus Uddharam. Jeerno means absorption of divine sanctity. That is the sanctity, the Sanidhya, which is infused in the Garbhalaya, is being digested within a period of time. So Uddharam means re-energizing, recharging this Sanidhyam, the absorbed divinity. That is why the vibrancy infused in the Alayam, temple, and the statue, Pratima, and the Linga shaft has to be re-energized once in 12 years because they get weakened. Even though the prayers and other things, rituals are there, naturally they'll get weakened. Yeah, so the energy has to be re-energized. So what happens if we do not renovate, repair, or restore these temples or sculptures? So Shastras, our ancient Shastras, our Maharishis, through Shastras, they condemn.
So tell me, why do we do it every 12 years? Is there a significance to 12 years?
Yes, we do have. Because see, any stuff we are making use has a longevity, a certain period only. So like that, the Shastras prescribe once in 12 years. To re-energize or to restore the temples from regular wear and tear and any other natural or unnatural disturbances caused to that temple premises and the vigrahas. So if we do not renovate these temples, what will happen? Let's see. Like take the first 12th year, everything goes well, and the 12th year, if you don't perform the renovation with the regular wear and tear, that is correcting the regular wear and tear, if you do not perform that, the image, the divine vibrancy residing, housed inside the sanctum, will leave the sanctum, the Garbhalaya, and it will move to the Mahamandapam, the prayer hall.
Okay.
It will be waiting, that divine energy will be waiting for the second 12 years. Okay. What happens after the 24th year, the second 12th year, again, if the Jirnodhar is not carried out, that divine energy will move from Mahamandapam to Stalavriksham, the temple tree. And it will be waiting for the restoration to be carried out, whether it can get into the sanctum again. So what happens the 36th year, the third 12th year, if the renovation is not carried out, then the energy will leave the Stalavriksham and get vanished into the Surya Mandala, that solar system.
So it keeps moving out every 12 years. It will keep moving out unless you do something to hold it back in the Garbhagriha.
Yes, like we hold ourselves by treating us with good vitamins, medicines and all. We keep ourselves healthy. Like that, we have to take care of the divine vibrancy. If not, it will leave the temple premises and get vanished or disappeared in the Surya Mandala. So then what happens to the temple premises? After the divine vibrancy leaves the premises, the structure becomes empty and in a melancholic state. It will be it will be a sick building. I would say in modern parlance, it will be a sick building without
devoid of energy.
Devoid of energy. That's right. And what happens? All the negative forces will occupy the premises.
Okay, right.
And then,
so, Ponniji, when we met, you told me 4 different types of Jirnodhar that is done, 4 types of temple restoration. Can you tell us all these 4 types and walk us through each of them?
Yes, because to identify how to carry out the Jirnodharam, our Maharishis have designed 4 ways of carrying out this Jirnodharam. So we call that Anhavardhanam, Havardhanam, Punaravardhanam and Andaridham. Okay. Yes. See, the Anavardhanam is like constructing a new temple. Like you see in the picture here, a temple is newly built with respect to Vastu Shastraic measurements and aesthetic. And then comes and this is called Nudana Mahakumbhabhishekam. When you perform a Kumbhabhishekam.
The first
Kumbhabhishekam, Nudana Kumbhabhishekam, a new Kumbhabhishekam for a new temple structure. In olden days, people easily identify when they are invited for a Kumbhabhishekam. They will know whether it's a restoration or a new temple or a dilapidated condition temple, because addressing Nudana Kumbhabhishekam means they'll know it's a new temple Kumbhabhishekam. If it is a Avardhana Kumbhabhishekam, they will come to know what it is. So that Avardhanam is renovating an abandoned temple, an abandoned, dilapidated temple which is not under daily pujas or rituals. Like I said, the 36th year, the energy vanishes and all negative forces resides in the temple. So it is left abandoned. People do not go there for pujas. So that temple, when you take up and you do the restoration and perform the Kumbhabhishekam, is called Avardhana Kumbhabhishekam. Then comes the Punaravardhanam, which is regular temple under worship, pujas, daily pujas. It is taken care once in 12 years with regular wear and tear. And if you want to expand the temple or any additional shrines, these can be done during the 12th year, Jirnodhara Kumbhabhishekam. And this we called Ashtabandhana Jirnodhara Mahakumbhabhishekam. Why we called it Ashtabandhana Jirnodhara Kumbhabhishekam? Because the statues inside, seen installed in the Garbhalaya, it will be the statue and the pedestal will be binded with an adhesive material called Ashtabandhanam. Ashtabandhanam, like 8 types of herbal mixture, which holds the pedestal and the statue tightly. And you cannot separate them, and this will its longevity will be for 12 years maximum. Okay. Yeah, so that's why we call this Ashtabandhana Mahakumbhabhishekam. Then comes Andaridham. Andaridham is when you get heavy flood, fire, unwanted unpleasant things taking place inside the temple premises or in the sanctum or in Mahamandapam prayer hall. The Sanidhyam, the vibrancy gets disturbed, the spiritual ambience.
So this can be any kind of disasters, whether it's natural disasters like floods or lightning or anything, or man-made disasters, which could be like an attack on the temple or an attempt to kind of destroy the temple.
Yes, ma, that's very correct. These things are covered under Andaridham. Mm-hmm. So if the temple premises get damaged, then it will be taken care by the Shilpis. If it is only the spiritual ambience disturbance, it is caused for spiritual ambience, means the priest will have to do that through various type of homas, yajna. Yeah, that is agamic rituals, and based on that formula, they will remove the doshas, the defects caused by natural or unnatural forces. So these 4 types of Jirnodhara are explained. So what happens? Let me tell you. If a temple seen dilapidated in a village, even though the statues are there, the temple is dilapidated, people go there for worship. And what the Agama says, Jirnadhyam Pujidam Handi Nihandi Tat Apujidam. Meaning, even the temple is, even the Vigraha seems to be good form, but the temple is damaged, you should not perform the puja. You should not go to the temple. Even if you do not go, or if you you go there and perform the puja, it will be a serious offense as per Maharishi's statement. So this will cause unpleasant results like natural calamities, epidemics for the village, and the people will be suffering. So one of the leading Agama professor, Dr. Sabaratna Sivacharya, he says it's a great offense, and this would destroy the salubriousness of the country and the environmental balance of the country. That is what his statement is. So India has countless and precious temples, belonging to certain group of people, and these people look at it as their Kuladevata. Kuladevi or Kuladevata, family deity. And most of these temples are left unattended because most of them do not live in that village or in that township. They are all away from there. And lack of maintenance is there. And due to financial issues, they are unable to take care of huge sized temples. And it is in a pathetic condition. So this temple again is left in a sad state, melancholic state. So this will impact the entire family and community. So this should be avoided, and the community should make sure that at least one deep is there, and kind of offering is made at least one time. One Kala Puja is carried out. That is what Agama Vidwans are conveying. And this Agama Vastu Shilpa Shastra also conveys important factor, man. When you carry out the Jeernodhar, many people, they are not aware, because see, you have got a temple in a very bad state, dilapidated condition, and you are going to renovate it. So which material are you going to use? The temple is made of brick and cement mortar. Now you want to renovate it. You make use of the same dravya, that is brick and cement. Otherwise, you go for a high quality material, that is stone. Stone is considered very high quality and longevity. So then you have to replicate it with the same measurement.
Yes, I remember this conversation we had. Yes, I remember this conversation we had where we said the overall quality of the temple can always be improved, but it must not go down. It must not deteriorate.
Yes, that's right. In that way, it will bring all good fortune and prosperity will be there, not only for the temple builder, for all the devotees and the people living in that locality. So there's another one statement, Anuradhama. There is the Khamika Agamam. It says, Manahine Mahavyadi. Adike Karturu Nasanam Tasmat Sarva Prayatnena Karayet Lakshanan Vitam. That is, it says, like just now we discussed, if we exceed the existing measurements or proportions fall short or reduced, it will affect the people with severe diseases or, like plague or any other natural calamity. And the builder will be put into trouble. So these things are to be taken care. And I'm sure most of us are not aware about this because like I said, it is not seen in Google or Wikipedia search engines. It is available only in Shastraical text, and some of the scholars are revealing it nowadays. They are talking about these things to create an awareness. So, like you had asked me this morning, how can the citizen can maintain these temples which would bestow them with spiritual harmony and physical welfare? For this, Anuradhama, I tell you, people has to understand the concept of the temple first. Temple is not a congregational hall or an art gallery showcased with vigrahas. Temple is nothing but it's a form of God. It's a living form.
Yes.
Which can pulsate and vibrate. So we have to look at it as a living organism. That's why our scripture says, Prasadam Purusham Madhva Pujayet Mantra Vittamaha, which means the priest who is well versed in mantras should look at the temple, the sacred built form, and chant the mantras. Since the sacred built form is the God form, the Purusha and has to worship him with due respect. But we do not know all these things. We just go to a temple thinking it's a beautiful art gallery, but the God is residing there, and we make some kind of prayers and we come back.
That is turned off, so I can't.
Hello? Yeah.
Yes.
Yes. So the Agama Shilpa Shastra, it defines temple as a form of God and not home of God. There's meaning between these two. So the temple is a form of God because the temple is structured, the sacred space is built in accordance to the human limbs. Correlating with human limbs. So it's a Purusha. We look at the temple form as a Purusha when the Purusha in standing form. And when a Purusha is reclining form, again the temple is regarded as the reclining form of God. That is the Garbhalaya, Mahamandapa, Dvajastamba, and the Raja Gobram in reclining form. While standing form, we see at Lord's feet, hands, his shikar, the head part, and the hair lock is the fenial part called kalasha, stupi kalasha. So this thing has to be understood. It's very simple, like the
It's
subtle
simple for
energy
you.
is transferred into gross. Pardon?
It's very simple for you. It's not simple for us ignorant people, honestly speaking. So I'm still going to ask you to simplify it very much for very common people, and say that if I know there are 2 temples in a 2-kilometer radius of my house, how can I make sure that those temples have the required energy and they are maintained?
Oh, okay. No, we can look
what
at
can
this.
I do in my own little way? Apart from paying for it, what is it that we can do to maintain it? And then I have some more questions for you.
Sure, Ma, sure. Actually, you have to look at the temple, okay? Whether it is in a pleasing form. So, see, normally when we look at somebody, we say, hey, he looks smart. Why? Because his anatomy.
The form is good.
Yeah. So you have to verify whether the temple form is pleasing to our eyes.
Right.
And then you enter inside, whether you feel the vibration, whether you feel like in Yoga Shastra, we say Anantamaya Kosham. So how does one feel when he attains that Anantamaya Kosham? So you have to feel that completeness, the peace, peace and harmony when you stand before the sanctum. Do you feel that? Means things are imperfect. If there is any disturbance when you enter inside and when you look at the temple from outside the compound wall, it's not very pleasing. So there should be some miscalculations in the forming of the sacred built form, or any cosmetical features are missing, due to which the temple is not in complete form. So things like that you have to verify, rule out one by one.
So you
like
have to connect with the energy of the temple. Try to connect with the energy, and then you will be able to sense anything that is wrong. And once you know what is wrong, it can always be corrected.
Yes, the temple has to resonate with your inner feeling. Yeah.
Yes. Okay. So, Ponni-ji, before we end this, I have a couple of questions. Like, that I travel around and I write a lot about temples. So tell me, say temples like Sun Temple of Modhera or Kandariya Mahadev in Khajuraho. These are temples that are, these are temples that are, these are temples that are, that exist. They are beautiful temples, but their murtis are missing. And the murtis on the outer wall are either broken or, they have, they've been attacked or whatever. So under what category would you renovate them?
Okay.
They're not worshipping temples.
Okay. Maybe, see, these temples we can renovate, Ma. We can replicate the temple as it is in a new place, same alike, we can replicate. Otherwise, we can replace the damaged parts. If it is a temple structure, okay. You said Vigraha is found missing.
Vigraha is missing, yes.
Yeah. So in that case, we have to make a thorough research. We can call the village people, the old persons, those people will be knowing the past, the history of the temple. Or you have to look for the temple history, or you have to read the temple walls where they would have inscribed
some clues.
Yes, you have to find. And while looking
what
at
category
temple,
would it come under? In these 4 categories, with what category would it come under?
Okay, if it is not under worship, then you have to go, like I said, Avardhana Kumbhabhishekam, Avardhana style of Jeernodharam.
Jeernodharam, where the main murti, Mool Murti can be replaced, and then the Kumbhabhishekam is done. And what about the temples which are worshipping, but some of their murtis are broken, like murtis on the outside are broken, Mool Murti is there. Mool Murti is in place.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
a lot of outside Murtis on the outer walls are broken.
The auxiliary shrines, you mean?
Yes, and
No,
not
this
the
comes
auxiliary
under
shrines.
Parivara Murtis.
Not the auxiliary shrine, the ones which are on the outer walls.
Oh, walls, all the projected murtis, relief.
Yes.
Okay, so these will come under Punaravardhanam, ma'am. So
Okay.
you can do the corrections for the damages and whatever is missing. See, in Shastra, if it is a Mahadev temple, it will explain what should be carved on the wall.
Yes.
On the wall of Garbhalaya. Based on that, there'll be a Nartana Ganesha, there'll be Durga Mata, Lingodbhava, and Dakshinamurti. So we have to check which one is damaged. Accordingly, we have to replace, maintaining the style of architecture.
That can be done.
It is possible.
Okay. So, which means that a lot of our temples and a lot of them in North India, at least north of Tamil Nadu, a lot of those temples are standing. They are standing as temples, but they are not really practicing temples, either because the Mool Murti is missing, or even if Mool Murti is there, a lot of the other shrines are missing.
Yes.
So you're saying following either Avardhana or Andaritam.
Yeah.
Because some of them have been attacked and some of them are in a dilapidated state. So following either of these, they can be rejuvenated.
Yes, in some cases, we need to do both Punaravardhanam and Andaridam or Anavardhanam and Andaridam, things are there because those temples would have been attacked and the temple premises are damaged and no vigrahas inside. So many issues are there. So based on that, the expertise team will decide to carry out. So they will repair the damaged parts, the dilapidated condition will be corrected. Afterwards, the priest team will be there to carry out the Andaridam, that is the Shanti Pariharam, Prayachittam. Prayachittam. Yeah. They'll have to
forgiveness, basically.
Yes, that's right. And they will request, they'll invoke that godly energy to come back and reside inside the temple and bestow the prosperity and spiritual bliss to one and all going to the temple. Yeah.
Yes, that brings me towards the end of our conversation. This conversation, I'm sure we'll have a lot more conversations.
Sure.
But Poniji, this reminds me of what we spoke about, that we really do not need to build new temples if we can just take care of our existing temples. We have so many of them.
Yes, that is what Kanchi Mahaperiyava, you know him, Kanchipuram Mahaperiyava Chandrasekhara Swamigal, he always requests the public, he appeals, please take care of your own Kuladevata temples, because India is filled with many countless ancient temples, and they are waiting to be restored. So each one of us have got, either, see, my background, Tanjavur Brihadishwara temple is our ancestors have built. So we go there, we provide our services. Like that, we have to reclaim all these surviving temples, like you said, in North India, north of Tamil Nadu. We have to reclaim all these surviving temples and the sculptures from the dilapidated condition. As you said,
and as you said, India is a highly developed country. We just have to take care of things that make us highly developed.
It's very true, Ma, because see, no other country than India, Western countries, I'm not talking this side, Eastern, Western countries, they do not have a Brihadishwara temple or a North Indian huge skyscraping shikhar. They do not have. Everything we possess, and we have spread it towards Eastern countries. So imagine all these temples and sculptures.
Imagine the sacred energy they can provide us. More than anything else. Imagine the sacred energy that they can provide us. And I'm sure it will.
We are the richest country, Ma. This is a karma bhumi.
Yes, Right, Moni ji.
Okay.
Is there anything else that we need to know about temple restoration? Again, very small tips that we can do. One tip I captured from you is that we must all take care of our own Kuldevis, Kuldevatas.
Yes.
I would add to that, you also take care of the temples which are in the periphery of your home, wherever you live.
Yes,
Whichever
yes.
place you live, if you can take care of the temples in your periphery,
Yes.
and if you keep visiting temples, because when the places which are visited are also maintained by default.
That's true.
It's
See, I'll tell you. Yeah, temple tradition is vast ocean. Ma. We have got so many things to be discussed, but very crisp and short. I would like to request our fellow Indians that please approach an expertise sapati of this field to renovate and restore. Do not make use of ordinary masons or contractors who have poor know-how about Shastraical principles and rules. So what happened? Defect, doshas are occurring. So this we should avoid.
Right. Great, Poni ji. Thank you so much. As always, it's a pleasure talking to you. And we will have you back sometime
Thank you.
on another
Thank
topic.
you.
Thank you so much. Vanakkam.
Thank you, Ma. Vanakkam. Yeah.
Thank you for joining us on Detours. You can also join us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. Our handle is Inditales, INDITALES. See you soon.